So I'm going to start off and just let you know, I'm going to be very intentionally kind of basic and high level. And then my colleagues here that are going to be speaking after me are going to talk in a little bit more detail on some industry-specific stuff and a little bit more detail in some specific topics. So it isn't by design, not by laziness, that we're quite on an overview here. Basically, the reason why Rachel and I started talking about having this particular session was we come to technology events in our industry and we hear a lot about social media or really big technology platforms. And as Paul said, there's a lot of opportunity for quick wins that we need to be keeping our eyes out for. And I think it's something that us as an industry and all of our different types of organizations are underutilizing right now. So what I want to do is talk a little bit today about the process of actually introducing technology into your team to be able to get those quick wins. And then we'll actually go into some examples as well. And if you've got some, when we do questions and answers, if you have something that's helped your team, by all means, feel free to raise your hand and say, hey, we love using XYZ tool to do XYZ at our organization. So perfect. So we'll get started here. I want to give you a little background on who I am so that you know why I'm talking about these topics. I actually started out in the tourism industry by starting a little bicycle tour company in Sydney, Australia. So I'm a supplier like some of those of you in this audience. Before that, I had an information systems degree and I worked for a large consulting company. So I've been able to kind of marry my joy for technology with all of the travel industry and tourism industry. And that ultimately is kind of embodied in TourConnect. So basically, TourConnect, and the reason why I'm bringing it up is it was founded out of my passion for efficiency in our industry. So when I got into the industry, I realized two challenges for my bicycle tour company. One is I was always trying to find new buyers, and the second was as I got new buyers that were selling my products, there was a ton of administration that went around it that we could get more efficient with. And that will tie into some of the broader topics I'll talk about shortly. The types of people in our network, we've got accommodation suppliers, non-accommodation suppliers like tours and attractions. We have agents from the inbound, outbound, all the way to the retail agents. And then also DMOs that we serve as well. So it's getting the entire distribution in one place. And then lastly would be the tools that we then support those members of our network. So for example, you can do a partner finder. Say you're a hotel here in London and you want to find buyers that are buying product in London. You can search using our partner finder, see some of the people you currently work with, and then see some of the people that you might want to reach out to and start working with. Then you can manage marketing materials on there. You can do your annual static rates that we can automate into booking systems like TourPlan, Open Destinations, and the likes. And the goal is automating some very manual processes. So that's all I'm going to talk about on TourConnect. Again, I want to keep this very broad. This isn't about us. It's about how you can help your organization. But I wanted you to see that everything that we produce in TourConnect is focused around trying to create efficiency for our industry as a whole, not to mention the individual organizations that are on our network. So we'll move over and talk about how to actually implement technology in your organization. And I think the very first thing that's extremely important is creating a culture of innovation, right? And actually, Stefano and I were talking about this. He's at GTA, much bigger than my Bonza Bike Tours organization. But just the same, we're teaching our staff and hiring people to have an eye for how they can do their jobs more efficiently. And it doesn't matter how big or small your company is. It starts with finding the right people. So set expectations when you're doing recruiting. I might recommend a book called Hire With Your Head that helps with recruiting and hiring the right people. But also very importantly is once somebody starts, we make a really important point about talking in whys. So for example, I could ask you to contact our agents to tell them about a new cancellation policy. Well, if I asked you to do that, you'd probably go out and send them an email and call it a day. Well, in actuality, if I had said, hey, can you please make sure that our agents know about the new cancellation policy so we don't have problems with bookings down the track? Well, then you might go out and actually use something like a Constant Contact or a MailChimp so that you can track who actually saw that email that you sent and then follow up the people that didn't see it. So now you've actually achieved the actual goal, which is making sure everyone knew about it, not just tick off the task that you sent an email. So that's the type of culture that you want to be facilitating. And at the same time, try to make sure people aren't worried about making a mistake. If people are making mistakes and using a technology or sending out an email that doesn't quite work, if they're trying to do it to make the company better, encourage that and learn from it and take the team together and learn from it. If you say, hey, you didn't achieve the goal, and you leave it at that, that doesn't really foster that environment that you want to create. The next piece is, as you're actually going through and finding opportunities to become more efficient, there's a little bit of science and a little bit of hard work that you can put into it. So rather than actually reading off these bullet points, I'll give you an example from Bonza Bike Tours on how we identified something we wanted to fix. So we actually got feedback once that our reservations team was slow in responding, and we actually lost a couple of bookings from it. It wasn't a lot, probably lost $250 in revenue. But what we realized is that was an indicator of one of the challenges we were having, which was responding to requests. So we actually started measuring where we were spending our time. So I had my team track how much time they were spending responding to different types of emails. And we found two different things that we were doing. One, we were actually telling people where we were located more often than we really should be. And the other was we were actually sending manual confirmation emails to all of our requests from agents. Well, those were two opportunities for us that could save us over 5 hours a week in terms of our emailing. 5 hours a week is a lot of time spent on two dumb administrative tasks. So we said, all right, if I had just looked at it from the basic we're not responding quick enough, I could have told my team, I don't care, just get the responses out the door, which might have led them to stay till 7, 8 o'clock at night every day trying to fulfill those requests. When in actuality, that may have solved the symptom, but it didn't actually solve the core problem. So take that time to dig in and find out truly what's happening. And then for us, it was, hey, we now have a clear goal. We need to eliminate two types of emails. One is manual confirmations. The other is our address. The address led to us using WordPress on our new website so that we could make changes to the information we're providing. And the manual pieces, we actually got a new booking system that automated all of our bookings. So again, it kept us very focused in what we were doing and defining what we were trying to achieve. Next piece, identify easy to implement solutions. And this is kind of the core of what we're talking about today. There are so many technologies out there that are free or cheap and very easy to implement that can solve a lot of the problems that you have out there. So start with a big net, go out and look and find anything that might possibly solve whatever that business objective is that you're trying to do. And at the same time, don't overlook a manual process. Sometimes you can just get a better manual process, and that's just as good as new technology. But look for new free trials, because sometimes the cost is something that might keep your organization from trying something out, so look for free trials. Time or complexity, use pilots to do something. Use it in a small area of your business or of your team, and it's a good way to kind of get started. And then the last piece, it sounds obvious, choose what solution fits best. Well, remember, one of the solutions that you might do to eliminate some of those hurdles might be just helping you find out a little bit of what you need and what you don't need. So you might use something that has a free trial just to figure out, you know what, we thought we needed these features, but we don't need them, we want X, Y, or Z. So don't forget about those pieces. And then the last piece is make sure you're measuring things. And this is so easy, but it's so easy to forget. Focus on the key metrics. So for my team, with that example at Bonza Bike Tours, we had a very key metric in terms of knowing the number of the types of emails that we were trying to take care of and the time that it took. So we could watch as we implemented these solutions, and we started seeing those number of those emails go down, and we literally just tracked them each week manually. We assigned it to one champion so that whoever was implementing whatever tool we found out there was actually in charge of making sure the metrics were tracking as to what we expected in terms of results. And we talked about it regularly on our team so that everyone knew what was happening, was up to date. And then the last most important piece with this would be have that person interpret the results. It's fine enough to sit there and throw a number up on the board, but if something looks funny, make sure they're empowered and they feel good about going and digging in to find out why that number looks off. So again, just make sure that you've got one person that's kind of leading the charge in how you can do things. The last piece in here too is, so that's more of all of the actual implementation and how to create a good culture. Stay connected and look for ideas everywhere. Just because you're interacting with a company that's not in tourism doesn't mean they don't have something or a technology or using a technology that can't be of value to you. So keep an eye out for those things. Read different travel media, read technology media. We've got some great technology partners here that are at this event. Chat to those people, network, attend the actual events, and most importantly, not only you, but your team should just be observant. Look at the things happening around you. You know, I go into a cafe and I see their point of sale stuff that could help my bike tour, even though they're clearly not in tourism, but they're doing the same essential functions as what we're doing. So keep an eye out for them. All right, so I'm going to switch gears now, and I'll go through these a little quick, but I wanted to talk about some of the categories of types of tools that you can use out there. First off, communications tools, and actually, Stefano, you guys mentioned Zoom the other day. They live on Zoom because they have a team that's spread out around the world, and that's how they do all their meetings. Awesome, cheap, efficient, and a great way to keep everybody connected. So that's a good one I didn't have on here. I'm sure you've noticed some of these that you guys have used. I actually use for our bike tours, our staff on a day-to-day basis, we're using our manager to switch shifts, which was wasting our manager's time. We actually used a Facebook group, and that solved the communication problem. So you don't have to look at the fancy new thing out there. You know, Facebook group isn't the most technical thing out there, but it solved the problem. And it was because our team recognized that that was something that was inefficient and a waste of time. So keep an eye out on those. Document sharing tools, there's a ton out there. We use Dropbox at TourConnect to store files that are not really changing a whole lot, and we use Google Drive to share documents all the time. I shared this presentation with one of my staff to go through and ask them to review it, make sure there weren't too many typos in there. But there's a lot of opportunities in there. I use Evernote on my phone here to take notes for this, and I can do it on my desktop as well as my laptop. So again, just be aware of where you're spending time and inefficiency, and you can find these tools to help you out. Collaboration tools, there's some great ones out there for chat within your own organization. So we use HipChat, Slack is all the rage now, and it's basically instant messaging within your own organization. The way we use that is rather than cluttering up each other's inboxes, if I go have a conversation down the hall with somebody and they need to send me a link or a file, they just instant message it over to me using HipChat. But there's also Trello and Asana. Those are ways to track your to-dos, and your team can have visibility into what everybody's working on as well. So good collaboration tools. CRM tools, I'm sure a lot of you have heard Salesforce, but there's a ton of other free, cheap, and easy ones to use as well. Zoho, Highrise, we use HubSpot as well, which is a great kind of larger marketing platform, but they have a good just CRM piece as well. And email campaigns, here's a good list of these as well. You've got MailChimp, we do a lot of stuff on that, again, to track who's actually getting the emails that you send out. And again, I kind of gave that point of, hey, just sending out an email doesn't always achieve the goal of what you're trying to do. Being able to have some tracking with that can really help as well. And even on the accounts side, I know we're all in here, probably not too many of our accounts team are sitting in here, but the fact of the matter is, they are a huge part of our organizations. Billing causes my reservations team a lot of time wasted going back and looking through bookings, and there's a lot of opportunities to find good, easy tools out there as well. Lastly, website development pieces out there. Again, we actually implemented WordPress for our bike tours because we weren't waiting on engineers to fix our website. We could go out, learn how to use that tool ourselves, and make the adjustments ourselves. So again, it's kind of empowering our team to make those changes. And lastly here are some just other categories that you might want to look at within your organization where you might be able to find some efficiencies that you can gain. So I apologize, we've kind of blown through those, but we don't have a ton of time. But look at those organizations and those areas of your organization and see how you can find some efficiency. So again, I'll finish up with this. None of what I said is rocket science. You know a lot of this, but it's about being observant and finding opportunities to make your company more efficient and not thinking of technology as this giant beast. It's small day-to-day stuff that can have a huge impact on your organization. So that is it. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and we'll get into a little bit more detail with my colleagues that are coming up afterwards. So, thanks, guys.